Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sixto Wagon. I am the project director for the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund, and thank you for being here today. For those for whom a visual description would be helpful, I present as a middle-aged man of Filipino descent with short salt and pepper hair and a short graying beard. I am wearing a white shirt with black polka dots with a black and red scarf with beading that is orange, white, red, black, and yellow that is made from Philippine indigenous folks. Behind me is a blue and white quilt hanging, and then also a painting of a flower on an orange background made by our Accountability Advisory Council member, Julie DeVries. The BIPOC Arts Network and Fund understands that sharing privilege and stewardship with the Karankawa, Tapilam Koiwidakan, Sana, Atakapa Ishak people. We live in and create community on their unceded land, and we acknowledge and honor the indigenous people's guardianship of the coastal plains, bayous, lakes, and rivers, as sites of ancestral homeland. Everything we do here is built and originates on their presence, knowledge, and understanding. Thank you all for being here today, and happy Lunar New Year to all of those who celebrate in that way. We are excited to be able to share a little bit more information with you around the 2023 BIPOC Arts Network and Fund Artist Awards. Before we go into that, I would like to ask all of my co-presenters and community collaborators to actually introduce themselves. I will go to Erika first.
Thank you, Sixto, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Erika Mei Chua Holum. I'm the assistant curator at the Blaffer Art Museum at the University of Houston. If you need a visual description, I present as a young femme wearing a red scarf, a white shirt with brown hair tied up in a bun. I have a hoop gold earrings on. I'm sitting in a room with one blue wall, one white wall, with two works of art behind me. One contains fish and another contains a woman, and there's also a circular mirror. I'm really delighted to be here, and happy Lunar New Year to everyone as well. I'll pass it to Sophia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia Torres. I'm the artistic director for PDC Works, Sophia Dance. I'm also a choreographer and an educator of dance throughout the city. I've been working in arts and education for over 20 years, and I'm excited to be here. For a description, I am a Latina with short brown hair, glasses. I'm wearing a wine-colored blouse, and I have a set piece behind me in the shape of a honeycomb. There's also a mirror above my head. So maybe you can see yourself. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm passing it over to Rosa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rosa Orlando. I am an art curator and consultant. I am a freelance right now, so I work with different projects in the city. I've been living in Houston for the last 12 years. I'm originally from Venezuela. I am very dark brown hair woman with a kind of blue-grayish shirt. And I have behind me a work of art by a Canadian artist named Harold Town. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very, very honored to be part of this project. And back to you, Sixto.
Hank, and then Naveen.
Sure. My name is Hank Hancock. I'm here to act as a coordinator and support and run some of the tech. Hopefully, behind the scenes, I'll be going off camera in a little bit. Visually, I'm a middle-aged white man with gray hair. I'm in my office with a bookshelf behind me, and I'm really pleased to be here and do what I can to help. I'll also be keeping an eye on the Q&A to make sure that that goes well and to make some records of it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Hank. That reminds me, if anybody has any questions, please use the Q&A function, in the Zoom chat, or put it up in the chat, and we'll be able to get to that in the second half of this presentation. Before we get into more details around the work samples, we encourage you all to take a look at our prior video sessions from January 10th and January 17th. Both of those talk much more in detail around the broader overview of the BIPOC Arts Networking Fund and our strategies, and then also particularly around the application process. We are creating each and one of these info sessions in order to go a little bit deeper into the sections of our application, hopefully in order so that y'all have more opportunities to go in depth around this work, and then we can actually take elements of these info sessions and put it on our support desk, which is support.houstonbanf.org. Again, the BIPOC Arts Networking Fund is part of a regional initiative of the Houston Ford Foundation's America's Cultural Treasures. This was brought together by Ford Foundation, Houston Endowment, Kinder, Powell, Cullen, and Brown Foundations. This award, this 2023 Artist Awards, is the launch of a $1 million investment in artists here in Houston over 3 years. At the end of this cycle, we will be identifying 25 awardees, each getting up to $20,000 each, which is not a non-project based grant. So it is to support them and their long-term work. We can go into more details around that and other questions throughout, but please take a look at our guidelines and our submittable application and worksheet in order so that you can get more details around that. I will now turn this over to Erika.
Thank you so much, Sixo. Yeah, welcome again, everyone. I'm really grateful that you're interested in applying and have joined for today's session on work samples. We're just going to be going through what work samples are. If you've never submitted one before, or kind of have questions on what the reviewers are looking at, or how your work samples fit into your overall application, we're happy to get into that today. So we're just going to be sharing general thoughts about the work samples, how it more specifically applies to this particular award and the 2023 Artist Awards. We're going to go through the narrative responses, which are also part of the application and its connection to the work samples, and then go through some examples of what you can submit and just some tips and tricks on making your application stronger. So we'll also have a Q&A session at the end. So again, like Sixo said, please use the Q&A function, and we're happy to answer questions then.
Okay, well, I'm going to start by basically defining what a work sample is in case you have never submitted one. It is basically a representation or document of your work. Is definitely part of the application process, but it is not the only criteria we're going to be looking at. So it's just, it should, in a way, demonstrate your commitment to your discipline and what kind of work you do. In the next slide, I want to mention why are we asking for work samples? Why are they helpful? So they help you introduce your art to the world so people can know what is it that you do, what's your creative process. It communicates that, and it also demonstrates your commitment to your artistic discipline or disciplines. Next, I wanted to talk about what kind of work samples can be submitted in general, but also then we're going to be a little more specific to what we are looking for this grant. In general, work samples can be either still images, sound clips, video clips that shows bodies of work, and that I'm going to explain a little bit what I mean by that. Let's say you're a sculptor and you want to send us a video with different sculptures that you have created, then that's perfectly possible. But also, if you're a video artist, you can submit a video that is per se a work of art. So those are the two kinds of videos I mentioned. Also, experts of literary work, there are many ways to do that. You can send poetry or an excerpt of a novel or an article. So these are just in general the work samples that, what are they, what kind of work samples you can. For this grant, We of course have certain guidelines that are very clear in the application, but basically you can submit up to 10 images, 5 to 7 pages of written material, and 5 minutes of audio or video recording. And the way you can submit those are by uploading the images, uploading written materials or videos or audio files, and also you can provide a web link to an audio or video recording. Then it's very important, and that I know that sounds like very obvious, but it has happened to all of us, that you have your work sample or whatever you want to submit, and then of course you try to upload and it's not accepted by the platform that we are using. So always verify what formats you need to be using when submitting before you even start making one. Yeah. Then what are we looking for as reviewers? We are looking for work samples that offer like a complete view of your career, if that's what you want to show us. But in general, I think it helps to have an idea of how your career has evolved. Also, what the artists consider their best work or their work they want to be going now, because it could be that you started as a painter, but now you're more into a multimedia. Then if that's what you want to show, of course, go ahead and send us that. It's really up to you. You decide what you decide to show us. Also, of course, we are very interested in knowing or in, learning about your work as how you are committed to your discipline, and also to get an idea of your creative process. We are not necessarily looking for work samples that reflect your service to the BIPOC community. That if it's included in your work and if it's included in your sample, fine, but we don't really need to evaluate that through your work sample, because that is going to be evaluated in other aspects or in other parts of the application. And also, this is very important, because this is why, the part that we're more different than other grants you may have applied is that the work samples don't necessarily need to focus on a particular work or project. So try to think of more of how the work sample reflect you as an artist in general. Then finally, I wanted to share some information that I think is helpful. And again, this is kind of the same, but say it in a different way. Think about how your work sample successfully represent your work, either how your images represent the best qualities of your work, or how a particular excerpt is the best way for us to know your literary skills. I will advise to have your work sample reviewed by other art professionals, by colleagues, by other artists, because of course you are very committed and you know your work best than anybody. So of course for you, your work sample is going to be explanatory, but maybe someone else can say, oh, I wouldn't focus on this first, I would show this other aspect of your work. It's always nice to have feedback. Also, please be aware of the maximum lengths. And I love to read and to see videos and to learn about any artist's work. But keep in mind that we are gonna be receiving a lot of submissions, and we will love to be able to dedicate the same time to all of you. So be aware of that. And also just keep in mind and don't stress too much about the work sample, because it's just one part of the application. The application is very long, just because we wanted to evaluate you as an artist in different aspects. So those are, I think this is helpful information for you. Now I'm gonna pass it to Erika.
Sure, thank you, Rosanna. That was super, super helpful. And I hope that just helps clarify what work samples are and how you may have worked with them in the past. I just want to give a little bit more specifics on how this particular application might be different if you've submitted work samples before for a particular project funding or in just other types of proposals and formats. Typically, what you might be thinking of is a way to showcase your work and what reviewers can expect to see for a particular project. So perhaps you're applying for a public art installation, or just something that you're trying to propose an idea of what people can expect and fund and ultimately see an end result of. This is a very different application. We're really looking at a much broader look at your practice. So really think about the story that you're wanting to tell and how these work samples can really punctuate your journey as an artist, your past work and inspirations, and maybe just different maneuvers that you've made throughout your career, and how that can be paired along your narrative response. So, if you've been working in different mediums, we're really interested to see that and to understand, how that journey has been for you. But just make sure that it is consistent and it really tells just a broader view of your practice as a whole, and not just really specific, projects or different kind of productions that you've done. So just to reiterate, this is the work sample info session. So that's kind of what we're focusing on, but this is also the narrative prompts that you'll be answering as part of the application. So keep these in mind as you begin to select images and video files and whatever you're looking to use in your application. So please describe your current artistic practice and creative investigation. What does it mean to be part of the Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern and/or communities of color? Please describe how you and your creative practice serves the greater Houston communities of color. And please name the communities or primary community partners you have supported, served, or worked with. You may list the geographic locations and/or primary community partners in written form and with images. So I wanted to also give an example of how to approach some of your submissions. This is, of course, an image submission, and it's primarily geared towards what you might be using to show visual art. I wanted just to point out a few things about maybe that you might not have considered or sometimes can overlook, which is the file name and the work sample description. So here we have a work by Daoud Bey. It is, of course, a photograph, so it works really well for an image submission. And here you see the artist's name, the year that it was created, the name of the work, and then I included just this location Birmingham, which is also the series in which this work is part of. So you have this just offers a little bit more information about this, what you're submitting. And sometimes people kind of overlook that, and you have like a jumble of letters and numbers, and just know that this is also an opportunity to communicate a little bit more about what you're seeing, what we're seeing as reviewers as part of your application. Along with that, you have a very short work sample description. I really encourage you to use this function. It offers where this particular part of your practice within the larger story that you're telling can kind of fit in. So here I've again named the year of the series, a little bit more about what we're seeing and how this kind of fits into maybe if Daoud was, for example, applying for this award. We understand that he was creating works in Chicago. This is not part of that part of his practice. This is shifted to Birmingham, and then of course tells us a little bit more about where this fits into his overall practice.
So for video submissions, BANF is going to accept 3 types of options or formats that you can use. You can do a file upload. This would be a single file, and it may be compiled of several excerpts of your work that you compress and put into one file and are able to submit. The types are indicated there. If you are submitting multiple samples within one work, we suggest that you create some kind of title page at the beginning of each work to indicate that these things are separate. These are 3 different separate, samples that we're looking at. Or you could also include like a text box as the image is being shown of what that sample is, and some information about where it is from. The next option is a web link. submittable for BANF provides a web link that you can, in form of a text box, that you can put several links in. There is a limit on characters for this particular format. So you may need to use a link shortener such as bit.ly for your video submissions or audio submissions. Will be a separate box that is for your description of what is on that link, and then you can put more details, written details about what we are seeing when we go to those links. You may also consider, or please, it's very helpful to the viewer if when we click on the link or the viewer clicks on the link that the video is already queued up. If it is not queued up, somewhere in the description, you need to provide the start time and an end time or the running time. If you've got a clip that's, or a video or audio that's 4 minutes long, but we are only listening to minute 2 to 3, that needs to be indicated. Because there is a time limit for the reviewers and for your submissions, we cannot search for or listen endlessly or watch long extended clips. So please keep that in mind. The final option for video and audio submissions, you can do a PDF or Word doc where you're listing the links, and we click on that. This should be a one-page document. And again, we would like to have those queued up, or you have indicated the start and stop time of what we're viewing. For this, you can have a short description, and then you can again use the Word box or text box where you can give a more fuller description of the samples. Next. So it's 5 minutes, and that is not a lot of time for you to talk about yourself as an artist and all the things that you've done or that you may want to include. So I'm just going to reiterate what Rosanna and Erika have stressed. Make sure that what you're submitting correlates with the description or with your narrative. You're telling us a part of your story, maybe not your full story. And so for that connection to happen is very helpful. For music and video samples, the length needs to be minimum 60 seconds. So nothing shorter than 60 seconds, because again, we're trying to, or the viewers are trying to get a sense of who you are as an artist, and anything shorter may prevent us from really getting a nice broad picture. With video, I'm suggesting uninterrupted footage. So not a bunch of different clips from a larger work. Let's say you have a work that's an hour long and you're submitting, less than 5 minutes of that work. So it shouldn't have 10 seconds of one section, 10 seconds of another section, 2 seconds of one more. It should be that excerpt, whichever excerpt you're providing, for 60 seconds or longer that you would like us to view or listen to. Within that footage, you can have some limited edits if they're part of the same. So what I mean is you have 2 camera angles from the same performance. And so one is a broader view and then the other one is a close up, but it's not a separate clip. It is part of the same clip, just from a different angle. I do have a sample of that to share with you. Again, no promotional reels. We know you have those available. We understand the use of those to promote your work. But for this, for this particular award, we're asking that you think about yourself in the full, and what does that mean for you as in regards to your narrative about your work, yourself as an artist, your growth and evolution. And that's what we're really trying to see, which is not necessarily part of a promo reel. Next. So in your video, this can be included in words and in writing, or you see I've provided an image for you where it's included as a text box with the video itself. So very basic information on the actual links and samples: who, what, when, why, how. So who, your name, your role. Are you the choreographer? Are you the composer? Are you the musician and the composer within what we're seeing and hearing? The title of the work, you know, what is it from? What is an excerpt of? When was it performed? The date, where it was performed. Is this an outdoor venue? Is it an indoor venue? What is the setting for that? Why? So within these are very short descriptions of, you know, what it is. I put a really small one with memory web under there that says, you know, entangled recollection of a life-changing event. That's a super short, here's what you're looking at, and maybe give you some context. These are other elements, other important elements. This could be collaborators that you're working with. If it's multidisciplinary, you know, is it a certain group of people or audience that you're presenting to or working with? This is also where you might put the running time, the start and stop times. So now I'd like to share a clip with you, if that's possible. Okay, so this is a clip from Patty Solezano, and it's called Memoria entre alas. And what you'll see is that this is a short 60-second clip. It is performed outside. She does have edits, but it are short edits within the same work happening simultaneously. I'm going to move myself. So I'll talk while you're watching it.
Rezos, buscando.
Her description is placed at the end, so you see that it's a very natural setting outside. You can see the full work and also
Me gasto la
close-ups on it.
energía en las venas negras, toda la energía. Me gasto la energía al llegar aquí. Buscando rayos de sol me congelo. Emprender el vuelo al sentir que no puedo. Porque sé que ya no me toca a mí.
So this sample, this video sample is 60 seconds. And she put the credits and her information at the end. So as it comes to a close, you'll see that she has the title of the work, her role in the work, what is it part of, the cast, people that she's collaborated with, where it's from, just more details. And that way, that also helps the viewer to get a little bit more insight on what we're seeing. So I hope that is helpful. I'm going to pass it back over to Sixto.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Rosanna, and thank you, Erika, for that detail and that information. I think just following up on that, Sophia, I think that when we said that 5 minutes is not a long time, but you saw from that 1 minute clip that even though that 5 minutes is not a long time, there's a lot you can convey within 60 seconds. And like in that clip, we got to see. We got to hear her utilization of language and text. We got to see movement, vocabulary, how she actually is able to choreograph in multiple, and how she actually utilizes space. So clearly there's a lot that can happen in 60 seconds, and then think about what that could mean over 5 minutes. There's a number of questions that have come into the chat about trying to use multiple forms. Submittable, like the way that the application isn't submittable, you choose either the images or the PDF or the video. It's part of just the way that the application is currently set up. If there are multiple like formats that you need to utilize, unfortunately, we need to think some of that through, but I think that the PDF is generally going to be perhaps the easiest like utilization of that. Remember, if you want to provide, like, you know, if you're going to use a PDF with multiple media, it is the reader is only responsible, or like the reviewer is only responsible for viewing up to 10 minutes, up to 5 like videos, or up to 7 pages. And if you give them multiple things, they will choose what they get to see at that aspect. So just know that that's part of what we're trying to understand and how that happens. And so again, we have recognized that one of the things with the work samples is that because of the application portal, it's not all perfect, but hopefully we can continue to try to utilize what like if you all utilize the PDF or the video as those opportunities, you can actually show multiple aspects of your career and your creative practice. I think that covers, I think that those are I think that answers some of the questions that have already been that came into the Q&A in terms of the choreography, like so in terms of choreography performance, 5 minute, like it up to 5 minutes of video. It can be one video sample, it can be 5 video samples. You just need, if it's 5 video samples, if you're going to edit them together, that's great, or you put them in one PDF and then we can upload in all those links. The thing is, and try to keep all of, like, the web link can be to a YouTube page, a Vimeo, or whatever. I would encourage you to use some of, like, if you're going to be putting it into a Dropbox or a Google Drive, make sure that any of the permissions and all permissions are given to us, and that we don't run into problems where we can't get access to your Dropbox or your Google Drive because of that. I'd also be careful about Dropbox because it depends on what the reader's limit is on Dropbox. And if we don't have professional versions, we might not be able to view or download those videos. So I'd encourage you to go through Google or upload through a YouTube, and you can keep that YouTube link private. And if you're concerned about privacy and sharing that work, it doesn't have to be a public link, but just as long as we can get access and permissions to that link is the important part of that. I hope that makes sense, and in terms of this, and that again, let me just reiterate, I think some of the things that I heard from the consultants is that this is part of a narrative. This is part of an opportunity for you to share your larger story, and part of an opportunity in order for your work samples should make sense with your narrative, with all of your narratives, and that your narratives should also make sense in relationship to the support statements that are happening that you have, and I think that that's actually one of those where the more that the reader gets a larger sense of all of the work that's happening, I think the clearer it will be in terms of how your service and your capacity, and what does that look like in order to and what we're uplifting. Again, one of the purposes for the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund is for us to resource and support a thriving BIPOC arts ecosystem in Greater Houston. It is, and we recognize that individual artists are an essential component of that. And that is what we are working toward, is that all of these aspects of supporting organizations, supporting individual artists, and connecting them through learning and connecting them through learning networks is actually one of the ways in which we will, I think, strengthen our capacity and strengthen the BIPOC arts ecosystem in Houston and beyond, and build on what we already are here. Again, another reiteration, this is not a project grant. You do not have to tell us about what you're going to do. This is really for you to give and to take a look back on what you have accomplished and how that actually continues to serve and support our communities of color here in Houston. It is that story of what you have done and the history of your work that we are interested in. So be thoughtful around that. And yes, and in terms of literary artists, you can submit those 5 to 7 pages. It can be a novel, an excerpt of your novel. It could be an excerpt of an article, or it can be actually excerpts of 2 articles. However you want to submit. Again, this does not have to be. You do not have to put your entirety of your work in 7 pages. It is about giving us the best examples of your work and creating your narrative of your story in that component. So other questions that we have coming up. Okay, has multiple, yes. If one has multiple links, then the PDF might be easiest. Again, just try to remember, part of what we are doing is that we are trying to be really conscientious of you, your work, and be able to celebrate you and your work. Also, we are trying to be conscientious of our readers and how much that they are going to, how much time and energy and effort it is going to be for them to be realistic about seeing all this work. And that's why we've created some of these limits in order to make sure that they too won't be overwhelmed by this work, and that hopefully that the story that you're able to tell within those short limits actually is enough in order to convey with the narrative and those statements of support is actually what we are hoping to get forward to. I think that was also the part of the thing where all the work samples, like this should be enough in order for people who are excited and interested about your work to be able to look at other places, and that this is not like this is a start of a conversation. It's not just the end of the conversation of that work. Any other thoughts or any other questions have come up? Or I don't see any questions in the chat, and I don't see any other questions in terms of the Q&A. But Rosanna, Erika, Sophia, anything else that you wanted, like, anything else that has come up that you'd like to expand upon? I mean, because you all know that I can talk forever, but that's not really, Sophia.
Just being thoughtful about what you're presenting and how you're presenting it. I wanted to steer away from the word best, your best work, because this is not really exactly about your best. It is what samples or submissions reinforce and help tell the narrative of you as an artist and your artist life and your artist practice. So you were very right about the 60 seconds of that clip that I showed and the detail that's within it that we can all see and notice while we're watching. So obviously don't pick a video image that is too dark or that's very, very fuzzy or difficult to hear. But that shouldn't prevent you from, showing a sample like this that was done outside and possibly with just an iPhone. So it's just a way to understand you as an artist and your work better. That's it.
Thanks, Sophia, because I think one of the things on that is that what you might consider to be your best work, you might not have the best work sample or best documentation of that work. So what I think that, like we suggest is share with us the better documentation of that work, because I think that that's what we want to be able to convey. And it doesn't have, like as Sophia said, it doesn't have to be your best one, but it should be able to convey the information. And and we recognize that not all, there are times when we didn't have the greatest documentation. Like we didn't have the best phone, the best videotape, the best sound, all the things that's kind of what happens when we do performance, when we do live work, when we do experiences like that. But if that experience is conveyed through the work sample, if it it might not be the best sound, but if we get the sense of what it is, then I think that all of our readers and our consultants and reviewers will be excited about that, and they're not going to deduct. No, there's no deducting at any points in this. It is basically saying, as long as they can, it's legible to them in terms of they can see it, they can understand why you're showing it to us. That's really what we're trying to get to in that component. I think one of the things that we want to again emphasize is that the work that we are showing here, the whole application process and the round with the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund, we do want to celebrate the work and the artists who are here in Houston. And part of that celebration is through the direct awards to particularly the 25 awardees this round and 25 the next round. It is through lifting up the support and the work that has happened in our arts organizations and the work that they did, particularly through what we have seen in that first round in terms of the grantees. We are here to celebrate the work. All the reviewers who are going to be looking at this work will be hopefully are excited about seeing what it is that you have to provide. If it matches the criteria, even better. But really, part of the work is that we're really excited to see what and who is making the work here. And I think everybody who we're inviting into being a reviewer in this is looking for work and that they haven't seen before, or work and like our art, like an opportunity to introduce themselves to new artists, to other artists, and to other work that's happening here. It is an opportunity for us to really get excited about how what's happening here in Houston and the different components and different views, different viewpoints, and the different cultures and cultural histories. And I think this is actually one of the things for us is that you should not have to worry about presenting something that has a cultural specificity to whether it's Bharatanatyam, whether it's whether it has some of those histories. Our hope is that we will have readers, and like our plan is to have readers who have experience and an understanding of that in order to be able to share that and have the context. So you don't have to explain everything, but it would be good in order to be able to share the story and the context of that story in this aspect. That's part of our hope and that's part of our plan, and we will continue to do our best in order to make that happen. Any other questions that we have? Put it in the chat, put it in the Q&A. Anything else from Rosanna or Erika, Sophia?
No, I just, I wanted to encourage everybody to apply. I think it's always an interesting process for us as readers, but also for the applicants. It's interesting to think about all those questions too. So, yeah.
Thanks. I mean, part of our work is that as you are going to be doing the work samples, and this is very specifically work samples, we're interested in seeing all the different types of work that's happening in Houston. We're interested in seeing where that's originating and who's doing some of that work. And so that hopefully by building this network, we'll be able to connect to different artists, different curators, different community leaders in order to be able to see and know that, hey, do you know that artist is living in your neighborhood? Do you know that artist is, or who's doing some of that other work in that component? We are here to celebrate and also one of the things in terms of the narrative that we're asking about is service and support. We have ideas of what service and support can be, but we're also really interested in learning what your ideas of service and support are. Please present that to us, share that to us, share with us, like with the letters of support, make sure that they're the ones who are able to tell what the impact of that work is. And I think that whole conversation is actually really important in that aspect. Okay. So I see that there's a question. If portions of your work sample exist from current works at state institutions, what additional permissions are required to be included? Okay, so I would say that if that's a really good question in terms of this. These are private, this is private, you're only sharing this with us. So as long as we are not sharing this, and you need to, if you do not have permission, if we are not going to be broadcasting, we won't be broadcasting the work samples without any other permissions. So just be very clear in terms of your work samples that this is actually of this and it shouldn't be in that component. So I think that that's one way around that aspect. And because I also know that particularly in some theaters, and that you don't have the capacity or the permissions in order to make that happen. So I hope that addresses the permissions question in this component. If there's more specifics around the permissions questions that we need to get to, please go to support.houstonbanf.org and actually set up a new support ticket and get more specific around that question so that we can then be able to answer that more specifically. Yes, Sophia.
If it's a video sample, you may want to have the link as unlisted. That way it's not public and other people are not seeing this work sample. That would only grant access to the reviewers that have that link. So use the unlisted feature for that. Just a word about if other people are involved, I think it's important that you ask permission at the very least, or get, if you need a media release form, perhaps something of that nature. There are some available for free, a free template online that you can download.
Thanks, Sophia. So there's another question about, can one put together two different videos from the same program of two different pieces for 60 seconds. You have up to 5 minutes, so do what, like, you know, how that can work. I think that if it's the same, if it is the same piece, it'd be great in order for you to figure that, but like put it into one 60-second clip. But I think that, again, this is actually the part where this is when it's good to ask your friends, ask your colleagues to see, it's like, you know, make sure that what you are presenting actually, as Rosanna said, like, is what you're trying to say, does it read to the other people who might not know your work as well? And yeah, so I think that that can be, you can put two different videos from the same program and two different pieces. Yeah, so I think that when Sophia said, like, you know, it should be a minimum of 60 seconds, I'm like, that's a suggested thing, like, and recognizing the fact that we're saying 60 seconds because it is a sustained amount of work that we can understand and then we can get a sense of. And that's the part where basically what we are trying to avoid is you all giving us 5-second clips and that we don't get a sense of really what it is, that work that you're doing. And I think that when you actually do those highlight reels, which are great for some promotions, they're not necessarily great for work samples because we don't know where the pieces go together. We don't know if it goes where they go, if that goes before this or that goes before that, or if that's the same piece or if it's a different piece. And I think that the less that the reader or the reviewer, the fewer questions that they have about seeing this work, the more, like, we want them to actually be involved in you and your work and not have just like be taken out of the work too much. And that's one of the reasons why we suggest 60-second clips or all that, or it's like something of a sustained time, so that the reviewer, the reader has a better sense of what's happening, particularly if it's a time-based work. Okay, I think I answered. Hank, anything else? Okay, if there are other questions, just go ahead and throw it in the chat. We have a few more minutes, but otherwise, again, go to support.houstonbanf.org in order to look at other questions. There will be, like, and we have already had a work sample. We've already had an info session around the application itself and the submittable. We will have a work sample on bios and CVs in order to suggest what that, like, you know, in that aspect, and we will put that in the chat, or you can go to houstonbanf.org in order to find out and how to register for all of those, for that work. And then we are planning to have one around the support statements and how to actually ask for a advocate, ask for help on that. We don't have the date on that one, but that's part of, like, that's in the plan. Thanks, Hank, for putting that into that. And also, you can go check. I think that if you have signed up for the artist newsletter through our MailChimp, we do a weekly update on Thursdays as to, like, what other opportunities have been and what has shown up, and includes the links to those clips. So we encourage you to sign up for that as well. If there's no other questions, thank you. There's a newsletter. We will give you back to the rest of your beautiful afternoon. Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you, Erika. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Hank. And thank you, all of you who have attended this moment and this session, and who's watching this at any point in time.